Are you looking for inspiration, peace, and a deeper connection with your soul? If you're ready to investigate your higher truth, take a deeper look inside, and discover a better way to live, stay tuned for Higher Soul Living, where we ignite your divine intelligence for life. With me, Reverend Christine Hart-Savage. I experienced a profound spiritual awakening that was so life-changing. It took me into a 30-year career as a metaphysical life coach and breathwork expert. I've mentored thousands of people through their personal challenges, anxiety, self-doubt, and search for meaning. Higher Soul Living is about choosing to live the higher way. It's about taking conscious ownership and drawing spiritual intelligence into your everyday life. Join me on a search for higher truth to find hope, connection, and happiness. The Higher Soul Living Show starts now. Hello, everybody. This is Reverend Christine Hart-Savage. Welcome to the show. And boy, have we got a great show for you today. Climbing the ladder. From fear to spirit to understanding, hopefully understanding in the end. And today I have a fantastic co-host with me, Dr. Pat Baccili. Welcome, Pat, to the show.
I'm really excited about this because not only does your story reflect how to go from despair to discovery, but it also speaks to so many others. Now, you and I primarily work with women. I don't only work with women, but I will tell you that across the board, there is always a great story that's filled with challenges, that's filled with hope, that's filled with bottoms. But in the end, you and I get to sit here and say, don't give up, don't we?
Absolutely. You can't give up. Life won't let us give up, really, even when we want to.
Oh, I know. I've tried. I really tried.
Yeah.
I have tried. So, yeah. But, you know, in the journey, I think what's really cool about this is really taking a look. My dad used to say, in order for you to fix the car, you've got to take a look under the hood. That has become a metaphor for me. But let's talk about it, because this is today's topic and it touches every human being. But it doesn't come without a journey and a story. And this is for you to just share with people where you were and what you've done in this journey to really get to where you are right now.
For me personally, wow. Okay, it's been one heck of a journey. So really it was about trying. You know how we just try to make things work. And you can see other people like your parents. Well, my parents were still married, and people around me seemed to be getting on with their lives. And my life seemed to be a challenge, like a real struggle. And I just kept trying to do the right thing, and particularly in my marriage. And it just wasn't working. It just was not working. So eventually, when I was about 30, 31, I really entered into this terrible time of, I suppose, just hitting a wall. And I kept going and going and going, which led me eventually to a terrible divorce, like a really bad divorce, and then a breakdown. And I knew I had to make a choice of whether I went on to medication, because that's what they were suggesting, but I just didn't feel it was right for me. And you mentioned this before, it's about, in different words, cleaning up the inside. And I knew that I had to clean up what was broken inside me. And that led me to meditation, and it led me to breath work, and two modalities that I really didn't know anything about. But firstly, it led me to my meditation. And that was like opening up this whole new world inside me. It was quite amazing, the experiences I had with that, and even meeting a part of myself that I would call the higher self. And it was just the most glorious, amazing, like beyond words experience. But I will talk about this more deeply in a future podcast, because it really deserves like a whole podcast on this. It was absolutely mind-blowing. And I
Yeah.
still meditate. I've been up this morning, 5 o'clock, done my meditation. So it's only 8 o'clock here in Australia. So I've
Yeah.
been meditating for 33 years at the moment. But the thing I'd really like to speak about today is breath work, because breathing, which I came across a few years later after I started meditating, and it was just phenomenal, the journeys that I went on inside myself, the discovery. And it's just phenomenal. So I'd like to really share a little bit about that, about what happened in that journey. So with breath work, I ended up studying that and practicing it all the time, just phenomenal. And there's different sorts of breath work. But what happened is I started to enter these states of consciousness, these different states of consciousness that were teaching me. Not only was I experiencing this in certain ways, it was actually teaching me about life. That's when I realized that there's so much more to life. There's just so much more. I was shown so many things about the reality of life and who we are. And why this was happening to me, I still don't know. But I must say, since I was quite young, I had some sort of a second sight, if you like, a sixth sense. And I was told it was my imagination growing up, because that was, people didn't really talk about these things years ago. So I didn't know why it was happening. And I was in my body during these experiences and out of my body at the same time. And that's when I realized we don't actually have to die to enter this other dimension. And that's a whole other area that I'd love to go into another time as well.
Yeah. But you are also at the place where you and I talked about the other day. We're talking today about the ladder and what does it mean to climb the ladder? And you and I
Exactly.
both can relate to being at that bottom rung. And I know for me, I didn't even know there was a ladder at some points in time in my life when you're really down like that for whatever reason. And then you discover, wait a minute, there's this ladder now. Oh, what if I were to grab onto that? Can I pull myself up? And
Yeah.
that's the power of what we're talking about today. Breath work is so powerful. I know some top athletes and they are masterful at it. And yet the general population is like, what? Breath work? It will change your moment. See, it
Yeah.
will change the moment you're in, right? But you use
Yeah.
it now on a regular basis and you teach others.
Yes. Yes, 30 years worth. I mean, people have phenomenal experiences. It opens up this other dimension inside ourselves. We get taught things literally, and the insight that people get from breathing is amazing, because it really is like the bridge from where you are at the moment to where you're going. It's a bridge that opens up between the physical body and the spiritual body, or the soul, or whatever you would like to call that part of yourself. And what was happening to me is being inside and outside of my body, which has happened to a lot of my clients too, by the way. Amazing experiences that they've been through. But it's also just very good for reaching that beautiful, deep, silent, peaceful state beyond anything we've ever known before. It's quite extraordinary what breathing can do for us. So, look, I was shown about all these spiritual aspects of energy in the body and how everything is so connected. And this teaching and this education that I had and still get now was phenomenal. And I was taught about cells. I saw and experienced the cells and how they impacted on how they were impacted by our emotional state, and how emotions compress energy in and around the cells, and how it alters your vibration and your level of consciousness, literally. So I realized that we're not just a physical body. And I was shown how emotional pollution that we don't release, how it affects our health. And we could call that stress, because it basically is, but it literally is, and it has an effect on our cellular level and our lives. And I was shown how to start shifting this polluted, contracted energy out of the body. And because I needed it, I was so full. Because talking about climbing that ladder, I mean, to me, there just wasn't even a ladder at that point. So that's when I started to see, as you were mentioning, that the rungs of the ladder. But I must say, there were times when I was looking for the next rung and I couldn't see it. There was just no rungs. I'd have spaces where I thought, well, what do I do now?
Yeah. Yeah.
It,
Don't you also find too that, I find sometimes, and this is a great metaphor because I don't have the strongest upper body, but what I find with that metaphor is sometimes you just don't have enough of whatever you want to call it to pull yourself up. And so, therefore, for me, I've had so many people give me either a hand up or a
yeah,
push in the butt, one or
yeah.
the other, though. And you have too. And all of those experiences have led you to where you are today and what you teach now others.
Totally, absolutely. It's just a matter of that perseverance because once I started meditating and doing my breath work, all the time, consistently and being really diligent because I had no choice really, that's when I learnt that I had to clean up my life, had to clean up the past and really look at who I was being, where I got these thought patterns from, that all my beliefs, and where did they come from? Did I just make them up? And honestly, a lot of them are just so false, what we believe to be true, and it causes so many problems in our lives. So I was taught about all these different frequency bands, and literally, how people were always trying to move forward. It certainly was that way for me with my stress, anxiety, panic attacks, that sort of thing. And just coping with day-to-day life when it gets challenging. But we have to shift. What I was shown is we have to shift this inner pollution from the cells. We have to raise it up in frequency before we can actually move forward or
Yeah.
reach a higher dimension, if you like, a
Yeah.
higher level of frequency. Because until that shifts, we can't access the information that is sitting in that band of energy.
Mm.
So we have to earn that by releasing what's held at the cellular level. And as we raise our frequency, our vibration completely changes. We enter different energy bands that have new information and our life changes.
I love this topic because I recently went through a bout of my body literally saying exactly what you did. You've got to get rid of the, and I love that term, emotional pollution. You need to use that. It's so much better than stress because stress is so used. It is the word for everything. But when you hear emotional pollution, everybody listening to this gets it. And believe me, I know what some of you are doing. You're going like, oh, that's my ex. I know what you're doing because we all do it. Or my gosh, that's the emotional pollution of my boss. Oh, wait a minute, I got this child. It's a runaway child. But that is such a great term. But what we're talking about, I love this term because stress is so difficult to comprehend. But when you use the word pollution, we know how to get rid of it. Whether we're talking about something literally, we know what to do. You get
Yeah.
something in your house that's not working, you know what to do. But this is such a powerful tool because the universe abhors a vacuum and it will
Yeah.
fill it. But you can't fill it with what you want if what's in there is the pollution of what you don't, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So what you're saying about the boss and the ex and all of that, yeah, we need to deal with all that external stuff for sure and make different choices and know when it's happening to us. Because if you go off feeling fine and then you meet somebody and suddenly you're feeling really not fine, yeah, there's pollution coming at you. But the thing that I was taught is how not to absorb that so much and how to lift what had already built up at the cellular level of the body. So that's what I teach in the courses that you're mentioning, these incredible experiences in my program, How to Give a Shift. It's literally about teaching people about that cellular level and
Mm.
how to raise their vibration to enter new bands of frequency, which means in down to earth terms that we create a different life because at that point of attraction, we're attracting in new things on a different frequency.
Yeah.
And what I was taught is all of these down to earth physical experiences that we have, and we know they're challenging a lot of the time, and some of them are beautiful and wonderful too. It's that those challenges or those life experiences that grow our spiritual self, literally. They grow us. So that's what I teach in that program, How to Give a Shift, and that's all open now for if people are
That's what I
interested.
was going to ask you. How do people
Yeah,
sign up for the program? Because
yeah, they
this is
can go
really
on.
we have to get out of it, right? Where do they
Yeah,
go?
yeah. They can go onto my website at soullifeconnection.com and they can register. There's a register there for expression of interest. And then that's all they do, put their name, their email in, it'll come to me and I'll get back to people about what that's about and when it's starting. So yeah, look, it's, breathwork's amazing. It's an amazing thing. We do need to learn to breathe correctly. I
Yeah.
had a client here, well, I had clients yesterday, the day before I had a new fellow, and his breathing is probably the worst I've ever seen. And he's not well, and he's just really stuck. So when we start to alter the breathing, it does really start to shift our lives
Yeah.
incredibly.
I
Yeah.
really love this because I we talk about it. I just wonder how many of my teamwork actually do this with all the people we interview and all the tools we share. But it's not easy. It's like learning anything else. It's like learning something new. You can't
Yep.
ride a bike necessarily until you learn how to do that. And some people use training wheels and some people don't. But
Yeah.
this is a tool that you need to work with a group of people. Now, I'm not saying you can't do it on its own. But let me ask you this. I had a very interesting conversation since you and I talked with somebody, and they asked me, "What is the most meaningful song, Pat, that you listen to these days?" And I told them, I said, I listen to Empire State of Mind by Alicia Keys and Jay-Z. And they said, "Why?" This was the reaction. It was so like I was like shocked. I was like, we were on the Zoom, and they were like, "What the?" Why you listen? You're the queen of positivity. They didn't even give me a reason to explain. And they said, that's that song with those lyrics and da da da. I said, wait a minute. Did you want to even ask me why those lyrics related to me? I am a girl from the place that they talk about. I lived in Jay-Z's neighborhood. So
Yeah.
when he goes through and he talks about those experiences, it reminds me of where I've come from, but it also reminds them of where they've come from and where they are now. And I said, but you didn't even give me 2 seconds to talk about it. And I said,
Yeah.
but take a look at the words and I want you to think of me. I want you to think of this kid growing up in that environment and being surrounded by drugs and alcohol and bad things. And I said, before we can judge what we relate to, we have to stop what you said and we have to try to understand people. And I don't want to blow by that because you mentioned it earlier. So can you talk to that? Because this person was like out of their mind. They were like, I can't even describe their reaction to it. And then I played it to him and I said, let me stop you in the first paragraph and let me explain what that means. By the time
Yeah.
we were done, we had a conversation about understanding. I don't know that they changed their mind about me listening to that, but they had an understanding of why I related to it.
Yeah. Why you listen to it. It's a powerful point you make because music is exactly that word, powerful. It's magical, it's powerful, and it takes us back. It talks to our emotion. And I think anything like that that shows us how far we've come, because when I look at my life, I was really shy. I doubted myself all the time. I just didn't understand the world. I would never have spoken up, or, I was very fragile, I suppose, as a person, lacked confidence greatly. So it's that whole journey that we take through life about facing our fears. And I had worries when I was going through this whole breakdown and breakthrough period that when everything opened up. And it's like a lot of people that I've worked with too and different friends, it's like, what will people think when I start doing this? My family won't love me anymore, I used to think. What will people think? They'll think I'm strange. They'll think I'm different. They'll think I'm odd. And it was a big struggle but in a different way than I'd had in the past. So it's, I think we all have this struggle, but we get to a certain point where you can feel pretty good about what you've done and how you have negotiated those things in your life. And you can turn around and look at your past and say, wow, I really have come a long way.
Yeah.
I'm the same person, but I'm a very different person.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. A lot of those lyrics in songs, they hit that core heart, don't they? And it's like,
This song
whoa,
in particular, I mean, he comes out. I change the lyrics. What he's saying is, I'm out of that Brooklyn, and I'm out of that Bronx. And he talks about now I'm down in Tribeca, right next to De Niro. I mean, he's talking about things we all relate to. And, then he makes a statement where I've had to really been in front of people, and people have said to me, you know what, girl, you have done a lot, but I got to tell you, we can't take the New York out of you. And I used to go like this.
yeah, yeah,
So what we're talking about today, and you're going to do another show to talk about this further, is what we're going to talk about today too, is all of the things you're mentioning help people stand tall.
yeah, yeah. Do you know, it's interesting you just said then about shrinking away. I'll use that language.
Power, what's that term? Yeah.
Yeah. I was at a wonderful wedding recently, two really close friends from a singing group that I belong to. And it was a beautiful wedding, both in their late 60s. And the band was fabulous. And I do Zumba, as we've talked about before. And in Zumba, it's been wonderful for over the last 15 years. We have permission to make noise, to move our hips as women, to wobble everything, and to really let go. On the dance floor that night, there was a couple of us that everyone, all our singing group were up dancing, and there's a couple of people there from my Zumba class, and there was like a South American song came on. So we were doing Zumba, and I was moving my hips. I was really go for it. Woo! Having a ball. And the next day, a really lovely man that I know from singing, he said to me, wow, what did he call, your dancing was very provocative last night. And I went,
Oh
and
my
I
God.
felt,
Right?
I felt my energy shrinking in, like, oh, I couldn't do. I literally felt this force of my energy
Exactly.
shrinking in, and I thought, no, it's taken me my whole life to not shrink down, and I literally pushed it back out. And that's what we do. We shrink
We
from
do.
who we are and what we love and what we want to do, and we have to learn to not do that, to actually expand and say,
Yeah.
well, this is what I love.
Did you
So I,
stand up for that? Did you?
yeah.
Because my initial reaction, what's the term, cower? My initial reaction was to do that, and I caught myself.
Yep.
And then what did you say to, may I ask you? I know we only have a
Yeah.
couple. What did you say to this
Literally, I pushed
person?
the energy back and I said to him, it's taken me all my life to learn to let go like that.
Yeah.
Zumba has done me good and I love it. And that's all I said. And he laughed. And that was
Exactly. So,
fine.
each of us react in different way. Now, what I said to him was, I'm the new Sinatra. Since I made it here, I can make it anywhere. And this is
Love
me,
it.
straight face. You ready? I can make it anywhere. Yeah. They love me everywhere. I used to cop in Harlem. Now, hola, my Dominicas. I got this is, so my niece, my godchild, American, Dominican, Republican people. So I go down, took it to my stash box. So I start to say the lyrics because I have them memorized. And I just start talking. And I said, now I live in Billboard. I only did the first verse and then I stopped. I said, you can tell me by my attitude that I'm most definitely from New York. And I stopped because that's the lyrics of a song that so many people listen to and put it in a category of strange and explicit. But when
Mm,
I was done, I said, that's my story. He said, wow. They said, like, I never knew that about you. What a wonderful story. I said, yeah, it's a great
yeah.
story. And by the way, it's the first verse of the song you thought that I was listening to that was so explicitly bad. And and I said, listen,
Yeah.
try to understand me. Ask me questions about why I relate to that. And you know what they said to me? There were two people, a man and a woman on the call, said to me, we don't need to now.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what you did.
Yeah.
It's not that this person is not going to come back to you and
Mm.
say something else. But
Oh, that's
isn't this
right.
show and what you're doing moving forward to help people take that breath and take back their voice.
Absolutely. And really, if they're pulled towards something that they love, don't shrink back. Trust yourself, face your fears, step into it, because it's your soul calling you to your truth. I really believe that. So, this it's if you might be halfway up the ladder. People might be halfway up, they might be on the first rung. It doesn't matter. The ladder goes on, but it gets a lot easier. I had an experience once where there was an arm that came down from above and grabbed my forearm and pulled me up further. So look, extraordinary things can happen. But in our life, that was metaphysically, but in our life, it mirrors back that sort of thing. So I believe once we take those steps towards it, we're led on the way. We'll be led to the next step, like Hansel and Gretel, just taking that next step up the spiritual ladder. So it takes us in the right direction. So Dr. Pat, thank you so much for co-hosting.
Thank you. This is a great show.
Today.
And I'm sure you're going to do a part 2, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many things around breath work and experiences with this that are really important and terrific. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to our listeners too today, and look forward to talking to you soon, speaking to you soon. Have a great couple of weeks. Thanks, Dr. Pat.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Higher Soul Living, where you'll ignite your divine intelligence for life with me, Reverend Christine Hart-Savage. Join me every second and fourth Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio for more information and stories that inspire hope, possibilities, and a greater understanding of who you are at a higher soul level. Together we deepen the connection between the spiritual and the physical aspects of your being and align to your soul's innate intelligence. Metaphysics and the higher soul's journey are my greatest joy. I invite you to join our Facebook community, Soul Life Connection Group, and to visit my website, soullifeconnection.com, for more information about me, my programs, my coaching, and to tap into your higher soul's intelligence. I hope to see you next time.